Colorado Avalanche schedule has been released. What are we looking forward to? And what stands out? New episode of Locked On Avalanche coming at you.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for tuning in and making this your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. I'm your host, Chris Maselli. And if you want to get in on the conversation, then join our subtext. Link is in the show notes below. You chat with myself one-on-one. It's weird not saying chat with Kyle and I, but I'll get used to that. Chat with me one-on-one. Get your opinions, everything Avalanche related, and share it on this very podcast. Going to be discussing the schedule on today's episode. I did throw that out to the subtext crew, see if there's any games that they're looking forward to. So we'll get to those folks in a little bit. But yeah, I like this is always a fun time. Like the NFL does a great job of this. It's amazing how they market the schedule release. If you remember during the NFL draft, they had two women come out and just announce the date that the schedule was going to be announced. And that was like this big, like huge thing that they did it at the draft. The NHL doesn't go that far. They just say, hey, this is when our schedule's coming out, which I like. Keep it minimal, but know the importance of it. And yeah, we get it. And it is a fun day, I guess, to not only to see the schedules, but where the NHL is really kind of like taking it and running with it is in the announcements for each individual team. I didn't really care for the Avalanche one. I thought it was very basic. You're sending text messages to the players. Okay, it wasn't terrible, but in the world of social media and some of the amazing ones that were out there, I don't know if anybody saw the Buffalo Sabres, what they did the night before, where they had a buffalo wing for each team. That was cool. If you I retweeted it on X. If you haven't seen the LA Kings one, that one to me is the standout. I haven't seen them all yet. I probably won't. I'm not going to go through every single team to see what their schedule announcement was, but that one came across my feed. I watched it. I'm like, that's creative. I wish the Avalanche got a little bit more creative, but that is whatever. That's just, that's not the biggest deal. The big thing is the schedule. So how's it look this year? I know there's some things people will run to right away when they see the schedule. Like, what's the first thing that they check? I know a lot of people will go right to the back-to-backs. How many back-to-backs do you have? Well, you have 12, which is around what you normally get. I don't remember what they had last year, but I think it was 11 or 12. Most teams are going to have that. I did see Seth from Locked On Wild posted that the Wild have 14. Be happy you don't have that. Nobody likes back-to-backs, but everyone's got to play them. I would be hard-pressed to find a team that has more than 14. I can't imagine anybody has more than 14. It gets a little bit fluky with the Olympics, and maybe that's why teams maybe have an extra one or two or maybe three. But you have that big break in February. So that is something that people always go to is the back-to-backs. I always like seeing how the season ends. Who's your last game of the year? And typically that is a divisional game. And I can't, I'm trying to rack my brain. I don't think wasn't it like the Oilers, I think, was the very last game, or was it no, it wasn't the Stars, I don't think. But if it's not the very last game, you'll have a divisional game, like either second to last game. Oddly enough, for the Avalanche this year, they finished the season with 5 straight games against the Pacific Division. So, you don't play a lot of games in April anyway. I think they only play 2. I'll bring up the schedule if you're watching on YouTube. We'll go through it month by month. But they play, I think, only 2 games against division opponent, maybe 3. I think that maybe 3. So those last 5 games, you're not making up ground on your division. So you got to, wherever you are in the month of April, you better be in a playoff spot for the Avalanche anyway, which I'm pretty confident they will be. But it just is like one of those things where you're not going to make up ground on those last 5 games in a row against the Pacific. So maybe they could be spoilers for some team in the Pacific, but I thought that was pretty wild. So let's go through this thing. Those are a couple of things that stood out to me. There's others. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot more. I'm going to bring it up on YouTube if you are watching over there. Blow it up a little bit more. There we go. So we'll start right at the top. We'll start in October and kind of go through these. We know we knew who the opening game was going to be, and that's in LA. And they did find out a couple hours before they announced the whole schedule. They announced every team's home opener, and that will be the Avs' second game. Whenever they're playing in California, I always wonder, like, all right, how many games are going to be in California? They're going to get all the California teams done right off the bat. Doesn't seem that way. Your first game is away in LA. You got a day off. You come right back home, and your first home game is against Utah. And that's an interesting one because I think a lot of people are feeling like that could be like the next rivalry, and it could be. I think if Utah starts, if they continue to progress and be a formidable team in the division, definitely. I think they could be. But I think people are already looking past that and look at your third game of the season at home against Dallas. Right, pretty much right off the bat, the NHL is saying, like, yeah, we're having some marquee matchups. It's a Saturday. It's 7:00 Mountain Time. So that is going to be a huge game. Mikko's coming back, obviously, and everything that goes with that. That's the rivalry where the Mammoth and the Avalanche could eventually be. That's where the Stars and Avalanche are now. So that's a big game early on in the season. Then you go on the road for a couple games in Buffalo and in Columbus. And then you are at home against Boston. And it's weird seeing Boston there twice, 2 weekends in a row, 2 Saturdays in a row. You're playing them and getting them out of the way, basically, with the Sabres. You're doing that a lot. Even look later in the month, you're doing the same with New Jersey. So you're at home with Boston. You're back on the road against the Mammoth again. You go at home against Carolina. Then you're on the road in Boston. And you stay on the East Coast in New Jersey. And then New Jersey follows you home. And you finish their season series up at home. And then you end the month in Vegas. So you're kind of all over the place. You're going to the East Coast. You're bouncing back between away and home. So there's no real like fluidity to the month of October in terms of staying home. I don't think the 2 home games in a row to start the month. And then after that, you're back and forth between home and away. Yeah, well, you have the 2 road games on the East Coast, but it's kind of all over the place. You get some series out of the way with Boston and New Jersey, and ended against the everybody's favorite Vegas Golden Knights. So we'll go to November here and bring that up. All right, so you are there. There's a back-to-back. Like I said, you ended the month, right? I'm pretty sure was your last day of October. Halloween. I just realized that. That's Halloween. You're playing Halloween at 2 p.m. Okay, so that's against Vegas, and then the first day of November, you're up against the Sharks, and you got a nice little break, a 2-day break, and then at home against the Lightning, 3-day break, and then you go up to Canada for the first time to play Edmonton and Vancouver, at home for a few, and for 4 actually, which is not your longest homestand. Well, that's in January. I'll get to that in a minute. So you're playing 4 at home. You welcome some East Coast teams there with Buffalo, the Islanders, and the Rangers. Go on the road for 2 division games back-to-back. Those are not fun. In Nashville and Chicago. And then you end the month with the Sharks in between there, obviously, with a back-to-back with the Wild and the Montreal Canadiens. So that is really like, so it's 1, 2, like 3.5 really, because the back-to-back is carrying over from October to November. 3.5 back-to-backs in the month of November. Okay, that's hey, I mean, like I said, everyone's got to do them. I have to scroll over here so I can see where my schedule is. All right, December. This is where things can kind of get a little bit congested because of the Olympics, and where they start to kind of like those 6-7 games that you would have played in those couple weeks in February. They kind of start like spreading them out in the months like in January and March. March is crazy. March is really crazy. So here is December. Start it at home with Vancouver, and then you have a 4-game road trip. You have 3 4-game road trips this year. Those are your longest road trips. You don't have a 5 or 6 game road trip or a crazy 7-game road trip. Your longest road trips are 4-game road trips, and you do that 3 times. So here's your first one, mostly on the East Coast, Islanders, Rangers, Philly, and then you come a little bit west to Nashville, a little bit to Nashville. And then you're home for a couple, Panthers, Nashville again. Then you face Seattle for the first time, and then you are in at home against the Winnipeg Jets. Keep an eye on that Winnipeg Jets game because that's the first time you're playing them, and it's wild how you finish up the season series with them. So you're playing them in December, and then we'll get to them in a little bit in a later month, but it's crazy. And then you have another division game, Minnesota, another Mammoth game, a nice little Christmas break. Come out of Christmas break against Vegas again in their arena. And then you finish up the month 2 at home with the Kings and the Blues. That month is okay. December is okay. When you shift over to January, picks up a little bit. You do have some days off, which is nice. You're on the road. You're going to the East Coast again, Carolina, Florida, Tampa. And there is your longest homestand right there. A 7-game homestand in the middle of January. You're playing mostly East Coast teams with Ottawa, Columbus, Toronto. Then you play Nashville, and then Washington comes over. Then you get your West Coast team that comes over in Anaheim, and then another East Coast team comes over from Philly. So a lot of travel for some of those teams, and I don't know what the rest of their schedule looks like for those teams, if they're playing back-to-backs, if they're coming off of back-to-backs or things like that. I don't know. I didn't look at any of those teams that they're playing. But that and isn't it always true in like January, you feel like that's like kind of make or break for when your team really needs to hit a stride. And anything that comes before it is like you're kind of getting your footing, getting like getting into the grind of a season. And January, you better start playing your best hockey. That's when you should start doing that. And the fact that the Avalanche have a 7-game homestand in the middle of that month, I think is a very, very big deal. A very big deal. So there's another back-to-back in there on the road. Ottawa and Montreal are right next door to each other, but that is what it is. So, all right, let's get a break in here quickly, and then we'll get to the rest of the months, and because they are interesting, some things that obviously are standing out for this schedule. So we'll do all that next. Let's hear from Game Time. We've all been there, logging on early and waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping, and that's where Game Time comes into play. Game Time makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime, and you can save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. I actually used Game Time going to a concert at the beginning of August. It's Live, Collective Soul, and Our Lady Peace. How's that for a trio? I mean, that's 90s nostalgia right there. So take the guesswork out of buying concert and show tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. So again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNHL, LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. All right, so let's continue getting through the schedule here. Let me get a different background. There we go. We talked about January, so let's move over to February. Not much going on in February because of the Olympics, so that's going to be quick. But hey, you're playing five games. 4 of them are at home. I'll take it. So you're playing a lot of home games between January and February. And when you come out of that Olympic break, you're playing a back-to-back. You're playing the Mammoth and the Wild. I know you play the Mammoth the same amount of times as the most amount of times as you do as like other division games, but it just seems like they're on the schedule all the time so far. It seems like you're playing them like 10 times so far. But you're playing a back-to-back right out of the gate, out of the Olympics. And that one day in between there, February 27th, yours truly's birthday, and they are not playing on my birthday, which I'm okay with because they played their very first outdoor game at Coors Field against Detroit when they lost in overtime. That was on my birthday. So ever since then, when they lost that game, I've been kind of like, don't play on my birthday because that's the only thing I think of when the Avs do play on February 27th. So I'm okay with it. Very okay with it. March. Look at March. Lots of games, lots of colors. It gets wild. This is where you're throwing those kind of extra games in the month of March. I think in December and January, playing 14 games. This is 15 games. There's 31 days in March. You're basically playing half the month. You're starting with the back-to-back. You have 2 days off, and then you're just every other day. It's like a checkerboard. And remember when I said, remember the Jets game back in December? Here's your other 3 games against the Jets in the month of March. So you're playing them once back in December and then 3 times in a 2-month span, and you're done with them. I know the league, like they do the best that they can, but it's nice to have division games, I feel, spaced out a little bit more because how the team you are at the beginning of the season is not the team you are in the middle of the season or at the end of the season. So that is, I say I've never seen anything like that before, but 3 games between a division opponent within a 2-month or 2-week span, I would think is pretty rare. But you do get Dallas in there. So there's, division games all over the place. You have 2 against Dallas. There's one against Minnesota, another one against Chicago, those 3 against Winnipeg. So a lot of division games there. You can make up some ground if you needed to, hopefully, in the month of March, because, with Dallas and Winnipeg, those are teams you expect to be towards the top of the division. Maybe you can make up some ground there. So that's a busy, busy month. And then finally, in the month, let me back out here and go to April, where it finishes up. And like I said, you got a good amount of games in April, even though you're only playing half the month. And look at that. You're playing Dallas. Okay. And then you have those 2 games in a row against the Blues. And then there's your 5 games against the Pacific. I just feel like that is wild. It's wild. So you have that one Dallas game on the 4th in Dallas. And that's your only chance. Like if there's something on the line there, if you're close to them or you guys are close to each other, that game is going to be big, but you have 2, 4, 6, 7 games after that to play. Not a fan of that. So, and then to finish up, like I said, I always see who you end the season with. Yeah, it'd be nice to start the season at home. You only play 1 game on the road and then you're right back home. But it's nice to end the season at home too. And you do that against Seattle, which is following a back-to-back again in Canada with Edmonton and Calgary. So overall, I don't hate this schedule. I'm okay with it. The only thing that I don't like is that ending with the Pacific. What are some of the notes here that I wrote down? So the third game of the year against Dallas, that's cool. Have a really nice marquee game early in the season. Those three games against the Jets within 2 weeks. 3 of your 4 games within 2 weeks. 12 back-to-backs. 3 separate 4-game road trips. The 7-game homestand in January. The break in because of the Olympics gives you only 1 road game in February. So between January and February, you were at home a lot. And then those 5 straight road games against the Pacific. They also have 18 matinee games this year. 18. That's a lot. I don't like afternoon games. And the reason I don't like them is because I love my kids more than anything in the world, but it's difficult to watch a hockey game in the afternoon when you have a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old running around your house. That's the only reason why I don't really love afternoon games all that much, but I'll deal with it. Of course, the kids are worth it, right? Yeah, of course they are. But I don't like them. I would much rather. I like the later start time when the kids are nice and snug in their beds, and I can focus on watching a Colorado Avalanche hockey game. That's what I love. So 18 times I got to fight with my kids to watch a hockey game. But hey, maybe they're a year older. Maybe this is the year. I know my son loves it. My son, he loves but it's also a way for him to stay up when it's the games at night and he doesn't want to go to bed. He goes, "Oh, I just want to watch hockey with dad." I think he kind of does want to watch hockey with dad, but also just doesn't want to go to bed. But maybe this is a year that they get into it a lot more. We have plans to take them to a game this year. And maybe this will be the year where they're like, "Oh, is there another afternoon game? I have 18 shots to say hey, join dad and let's watch some Avalanche hockey." They're all for it. They do enjoy hockey, not like dad does, but we'll see. So 18, thanks NHL. So I am looking forward to Martin Necas's first game back in Carolina, as well as Brock Nelson's first game back in Long Island. Those will be, like those when players are returning home and stuff like that. So the response that they get, I wonder how Necas is going to be. They'll probably welcome him, but the Brock Nelson one's going to be really good. That's going to be a good one. So, all right, let us get one more break in here. And then there's some people on subtext line who are throw out some games that they are looking forward to going to see. So we'll do that next. All right, let's dive into some subtext comments here on some games that they're looking forward to. We have Kitty here who says, besides all of them, I want them to smoke the Stars. Definitely going to one of the St. Louis games and maybe taking a Buffalo or Toronto game onto a work trip. Okay. I mean, if you get work to pay for it, I'm all for that. So yeah, like I said, it could be games that you are going to, which obviously you're looking forward to that, or if there's a matchup here and they are looking forward to some games that they're going to. Vargar says Mikko versus Landy on his birthday. All right, Vargar. How'd you swing that one? You got Gary Bettman on speed dial to tell him to put that game up on your birthday. I'm impressed. He's planning out what games he's going to take his daughter and his wife to. Everyone gets their own, and we hit a restaurant before. It's a family tradition. There you go, Vargar. That's what I said. When I said we're planning on bringing my kids, this will be the first year that they go. Stuff like that. I don't know what we're going to do, but maybe a dinner thing or something like that. Get some traditions going, and I love that you do that. Maybe I'll meet up with you because we're not that far away from each other. Lisa says, you know me. Yes, I do. I really didn't even have to read this. I knew that she was going to Avs and Caps. She's the Cap Avalanche fan. Although I admit I have a love-hate relationship with the games they play each other. It's like picking a favorite child. Plan is in motion to catch the game in DC. So not surprised, which Good for you. Christina, excited for the home opener, mostly because the boys are back in town. Of course. But also just excited to see Gabe back for a full season, God willing. I usually try and go to as many home games as my schedule allows, but I'll never pass up a chance to see the boys beat Dallas in our barn. Love getting to boo Dallas. Yeah, the Gabe thing, while everybody was excited to see him for the playoffs, and that was just a great moment. The home opener, like I wonder how long that's going to go for. You feel like that really could just go for the entirety of the season. For every home game, he's going to get like the loudest ovation. You just feel like that whole story is not going to wear thin for a while, as long as he keeps playing. So I'm with you on that one, Christina. So Madam Battleaxe says, I'm always ready to see the Avs and Blues. I just love when Binnington gets mad. It tickles me. That is something that I'm with you on Madam Battleaxe. I whenever you're playing them and he's in net, there's always that chance that he just has the bad game. Everybody has them. And if he has a bad game, is there going to be a reaction? And when it's against your team, you do kind of get the giggles. You kind of smile a little bit and just see like, oh boy, here he goes. As long as it doesn't hurt anybody. But that's always an option. Absolutely always an option. Shorzy, looking forward to games against the Capitals. Anxious for the Dallas games. I so want the Avs to hand it to them and their new coach. Not going to disagree with that. Dan says, planning to go to the Boston, New York, and Pittsburgh games, possibly New Jersey, if I can convince the wife. Anything I can do to help, Dan, to convince the wife, let me know. Craig says, I'm going to be going to the games in Seattle. I also plan on going on Vancouver. Interested in seeing how the Avs do against the Stars after what happened last season. Getting that a lot. I think a lot of people are wanting to see those games, and I love the fact that they're playing them third. Adam says the away game in Tampa is the week of my birthday, and they're the closest team to me now, which is about 4 hours away. So we might go catch them there, especially since that arena is full of great Avs memories. Yeah, never been to that one. So good luck. Ethan says Rangers in town, Halloween game, Bedard and the Blackhawks. So you're going to that one too, I guess. Good for you. And finally, Coy says, I would consider going to the Dallas game at the very beginning. It's going to be a hot ticket. That one for sure. And it's a Saturday game. That one for sure is going to be a hot ticket. A lot of people are going to want to go to that. So any particular games anybody out there is looking forward to going to or just looking forward to seeing, throw it up in the comment section. So, one last thing that I have here. I just thought this was weird. Every Wednesday, the Avs social media page puts up wallpapers that you can use for your phone. And most of the time they're cool. They're a player with a cool background or something like that. This one I didn't get. If you're watching on YouTube, I'll throw them up one at a time. So here's the first one. There you go. There's the Cale Makar one, and it says October with 3 games. It's got the Mammoth, the Stars, and the Bruins. And then here's the second one they put up. That's got Gabe and November and 3 games, one against the Lightning, the Rangers, and the Canadiens. Like key games for that month. And then there's December, Nathan McKinnon, and there's 3 games against division rivals, the Predators, the Jets, and the Blues. I don't want, when I open up my phone, to see other teams' logos. Especially, was it the first? Yeah, the October one. They got the Dallas Stars in there. I don't want to see the Dallas Stars all the time on my home screen on my cell phone. So I thought this was weird. They just put three games up from each one of these months. Why? I'm totally. What they should have done is just put up all the game, like figure out a way to put up all the games for that month. And then you can have the schedule right there as your wallpaper. And you don't have to go searching for it. You can just as your background, there's the month. And then you do one for November and then you do one for December. I don't need the Mammoth, the Stars, and the Bruins logos, although Cale Makar is there, and that's a great shot of him. Very nice lighting. Looks very cool. Gabe Landeskog, who doesn't like him? And even though my East Coast team is the Rangers, I don't need him on there. Someone explain it. Am I missing something here? I didn't. I don't know. I just thought that was really weird. I didn't need to have other teams' logos on my screen wallpaper, but that's just me. All right. That is going to wrap it up for today, everybody. So thank you for tuning in and making this your first listen of the day. Fire away in the comment section of games that you're either going to, looking forward to, or like I said, just a matchup. I'm sure it's going to be that Dallas game early on in the season. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in, making this your first listen of the day. That is always appreciated. We'll be back on Monday. Anything else going on in the weekend? We'll be talking about it here, so make sure to check that episode out. But have a good weekend, and you will have made it through another weekend where you're that much closer for Sidney Crosby being a Colorado Avalanche.